Hello to everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Berta from the alumni office. This is like the fourth alumni coffee that Café we are giving. Today we'll have Felipe Ochoa. He will talk about his professional experience on higher education. So I'll give him the floor, but before doing that, I would like to tell you that you can participate in this talk after he finishes his presentation. In the meantime, if you want to say something, you can write on the chat, and afterwards, we will give you the floors to all participants, so you can connect your camera and audio, and this will become like a coffee and a chat to talk about the presentation that Felipe will have given to us. So thanks for being here, and okay, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Berta. I am really pleased to be here with you. I met some of the people that is joining to this session. I am going to send to all of you some greetings from me from Ecuador. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me first congratulate the Alumni Office and the Alumni Council to on pursuing this challenge of reunite all of the alumni in order to share our experiences before and after eBay also. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and we can start if you let me.
Okay.
So. Well, so as Berta said, my name is Felipe Ochoa Mogrovejo. I am an Ecuadorian guy. Right now, I am living in Ecuador, and I am currently working as the coordinator for the Directorate General for Students at the Pontifical Catholic University of Ecuador. I followed a master's program in international relations. I am of the 2018 cohort, and I'm gonna give you my experiences about how higher education and international relations get linked, and about my experiences in the field. I'm sorry. Something about me is like the boring part. I am an international studies bachelor. I studied here in Ecuador in a university. Then I have some relevant jobs that I want to share with you. My first job was as a waiter in the Jazz Society Café. I think most of the people should have this job as waiter of a cafe. I was hired in this position because I was bilingual at that time, and they needed a waiter that could be bilingual. Then I work also as a research assistant in my university on ongoing investigation about environmental issues in Latin America. And then when I get graduated from my bachelor's, I work in the international relations department at a local government in the city I was studying. In 2015, my life has like a change of 180 degrees because I was hired as an assistant for the Undersecretary for Higher Education of Ecuador. Then I think because of my job and my experience in the field, I was hired or promoted as a political advisor for the Undersecretary for Higher Education. At that time, I was considered the youngest advisor of the government of Ecuador at that time. One of my passions are gender issues and LGBTIQ rights. I also passionate about national politics and global politics also. And in the last 4 years, I was involved into the higher education policies and how they impact social lives and improve quality of lives. No, and then one of my hobbies are I am like a greater reader. I read a lot of books, from novels to post-structuralism theories of IR and all of that. Then I love to watch series on Netflix. That is one of my hobbies also. But ongoing on my presentation, I want to share with you 4 parts that is going to be that I am going to talk about with you these 20 minutes, I think. One of the issues I want to share with you, I want to discuss with you, is the links between higher education and international relations. How a student or a professor or a scholar or on international relations could actually work in the field of higher education. Then I want to share with you what we think about what we think when we talk about education. What is the station of education into Latin America, into the world? And then how is the reality working? Because of COVID-19 pandemic, but also because of past socioeconomic inequality, and of course about accessibility. Right now we are into remote teaching in all the fields of education, at least in Latin America. And in the 4th place, I want to link all of these issues in order to understand how an IR graduate could work into the higher education field and the higher education policies. And I am going to talk about the intersectionality approach of social policies in the. Then, sorry for that. Well, so I have this slide about the core debate or the important approach about higher education and international relations. So we have these at least three core debates or 3 relevant approaches about scholars talking about international relations and higher education. One of them is the debate between internationalization and transnationalization of higher education. Internationalization, we talk about universities getting into the international field, but without trespassing the borders of the nationals, you know. So versus transnationalization, that is a focus more promoted by the World Trade Organization, and it focuses on how education should be integrated into the commerce field and should be trading into the atmosphere of the free processes of the international commerce. Then we have the other issues about global governance in the studies in higher education, how higher education is globally governed, and we have a lot of important experience, especially in Europe. We have the European higher education area, for instance, with the Bologna Treaty. And we have also important steps that have been made in Latin America. For instance, Mercosur is one of important advances here in the region. And we also have these other theories or scholars that talk about how non-state actors and other NGOs or organizations that are not necessarily be part of the national state could influence the processes of higher education policies in other countries by a diffusion process. And then I want to talk about also about international trends of higher education. International trends of higher education nowadays have changed the way about people choosing their professional careers. Professional careers are no longer fixed nor spared to a certain field of knowledge. So nowadays, the labor forces and the companies and even the international organizations are hiring people that are hiring people not for their professional career, but for their experiences. Because the people that are needed right now in the labor force or in the policymakers, for instance, are people that has the vision of a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary experiences, because they are more highly appreciated in the labor or in the jobs in the current situation that we are living. And then, of course, the link between higher education and international relations is epistemology, because epistemology of international relations are based on the theories and the approaches of sociology. And we have this big area of sociology of education that could easily be adapted to international relations or vice versa. So we have the people that have studied international relations theory or international relations bachelor or master program could know that we have these post-positivist approaches that could be easily adapted into into all social areas, specifically also into higher education area. Then we have this idea. The second part of my presentation is to share with you, or even to ask to you, when we talk about education, what we think. We talk about education, we think about a catalyst to improve life. So we commonly know that if somebody studies, it's more or the probability of getting a better life is higher than someone that could not access to education and obviously to higher education. So we have this idea that or these key assumptions that higher education promote ascendant social mobility. So the more years of education, the more quality of life. This is highly promoted by UNDP and UNESCO and all UN agencies that work into the education field. And we have also this idea that higher education, or education indeed, has a direct impact in reducing poverty among all the countries in the world. But how is education and higher education specifically working into the field in the world, in Europe, in Latin America, and in Ecuador? We have this data. I know it's just one of the data. We have to analyze a lot of other approaches, but just for a diagnosis, we have this. So in the world, almost 39% of people in the age of being into the higher education field are actually enrolled into higher education institutions. In Europe, it's higher. We have almost 71% of people in the age of being at universities that are actually enrolled in higher education institutions. In Latin America, is 52% of them. So we have these some of the scholars and obviously international institutions that work into the higher education area says that more than 50% of the population that is in the age of being into the higher education institutions, it's considered a universalization of the higher education. And in Ecuador, we have just 29% of people that is actually enrolled into the higher education institutions. So by saying this, I want to share with you the reality of higher education nowadays. So from March to now, we have experienced the COVID-19 pandemic, and at least in Latin America, we have 24.3 million of students and 1.4 million of professors in Latin America that has been affected because of COVID-19 pandemic. In Ecuador, we have 500,000 of students and 40,000 professors that have been affected because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So in March 2020, the first decision that higher education institutions, and actually education institutions, have made is that they suspended face-to-face academic activities in order to transit to a remote teaching. And what about this? Is that remote teaching was not familiar for most countries, was not familiar for most higher education institutions, and obviously was not familiar for students and professors. So this was actually a continuous continuous professionalizations, for saying some word, in order to learn how to do it, and by not losing also the quality of this kind of education. But in the COVID-19 pandemic, I want to share with you data about poverty. And why I'm going to share it with you, because we understand, for instance, that education is a catalyst to improve quality of life and to reduce poverty, but we are not in our best position in the world, in Latin America, and in Ecuador. And also we have projections because of COVID-19 pandemic and the economic effects of this pandemic could getting this data worse. So we have in the world 25% of people are poor. We are going to have at least 33% of population in the rate of poverty. But in extreme poverty, we have 10% of people that are extremely poor, and we are going to have 15% of them that are going to be extremely poor. In Latin America, it's even worse. We have 30% of people that are in the rate of poverty, and we are going to have 34% of them in the 2020, at the end of 2020. In Ecuador, we have 25% of people that are in the rate of poverty, and we are going to have 31% of them at the end of 2020. So, and in the extreme poverty, we have 9%, 9.5% right now that are extremely poor, and we are going to have at least 11.6% of people that is going to be extremely poor at the end of 2020. So these people are going to work, or are going to face struggles because of the economic approaches, and they are not going to not even think about access to higher education. So we have to take this into account in order to establish higher education policies. So adding to what I have been said, is the remote teaching that COVID-19 pandemic has put to all the higher education institutions and all the countries in the world is accessibility. Accessibility is one of important issues because we have a lot of people that are poor that not access to higher education, but also if they access to higher education, nowadays we are into a remote teaching processes. So we have this problem of accessibility. You know, in the world, there is like 48%, 48.9%, 49% of people that could, in the urban areas, in the cities, could access actually to internet connection and have an electronic device in order to connect to the remote teaching. But in Latin America, we are better. We have like 67% of people in the cities that have access to internet and have an electronic devices, and 23% in the rural areas. But in Ecuador, we just have 37% of all the population, not just the population that is in the higher education field, but all the population that could actually have access to internet and then have an electronic device in order to connect. It is even worse when we go to the rural areas where there is only 16% of population that could access to internet and could access to electronic devices in order to connect to remote teaching. By saying this, what I want to share with you is why I am explaining all this data and why an international relation graduate is so important in the field of higher education. I take a name of this slide, intersectionality, because I think international relations, the field of international relations, just in the or not even in the bachelor, but also in the master program, could easily give you the tools to understand how social policies work in a whole perspective, in a really big, in the big picture. So I have at least four issues or 4 problems that I want to share with you in order to understand that international relations is linked with higher education, but also is linked in other social areas. But we cannot apply it, and we cannot understand how politics work or how policies work if we do not understand that we have problems about gender, and we have problems about socioeconomic inequalities, we have problems about people with disabilities, and we have problems, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean, about intercultural diversity. I want to share with you a gender fact that I always want to share into my presentations, is that, I don't know if you have known that we have a feminization of the enrollment into the higher education institutions in the world and in Latin America and in Ecuador. So we have more women that are accessing to higher education institutions in Ecuador and in the region. The women are better students than men. Women are losing less subjects than men in all the higher education careers, and women have the highest rate of graduation. But in a research that we are studying right now at my university, we find out that women take longer times to finish their careers. So, of course, they are accessing more in higher education. They are better students. They don't lose any subjects in the higher education careers, but they are finishing their careers longer than men. So we have to face those issues, and in order to face it, we have to take intersectionality into account. And we have, of course, socioeconomic inequalities. Before pandemic, we were like underdevelopment countries. We were facing struggles about economic issues. With the pandemic, it's gonna be worse. And if people that are into the higher education policies do not understand this whole picture, wouldn't embrace the necessity of reducing poverty, for instance, and promoting policies in order to make poor people to access into higher education. But the access is not the end. The access is just the beginning, because we have to guarantee that the people that access to higher education would actually be into the university and finish it. So we cannot just say that an indigenous people or a people with disability access education and we abandon him or her until the end of the career. Maybe they will abandon the career if we don't give them the tools in order to strengthen the academic approaches in their professions, and also in order to promote to get those people graduated from their careers. So this is one I want to share with you this morning. I want to thank you to everyone, to the Alumni Council, and to Berta. And I am also want to apologize about my English because it's a bit obsolete, so I hope you could understand me. And if not, please feel free to ask me the questions you need to. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Felipe, for such an interesting presentation.